Good morning, everyone. It's Ben Buckner and Dan Bosse with Ag Resource in Chicago. Happy Monday to all. It is June 9th. We've got ag markets mostly lower, soybeans hanging in there, relatively speaking, but the grains are extracting weather premium. And Dan, I don't think there are any real secrets this morning. We are looking at sort of improving, extended range, even U.S. weather forecasts. A lot of other weather issues, assuming forecasts hold, are kind of being solved. So I do think Canada benefits from rain, very timely if it happens by the middle of June. The northern Chinese plains and some even Chinese winter wheat areas as well. Looks like they're going to get water finally. And so we're maybe down to just a few places where there are new weather threats. And again, we know kind of how markets react to favorable weather on June 9th. And they kind of drift into the harvest period, or that's what the market kind of starts to trade, is this replenishment in supplies. But do you have anything else as we start the week, mostly lower in the grains?
No, Ben. So everybody knows on backgrounds, I'm coming to you from the Sosslin Purchasing Conference here in Kansas City this morning. So they have about 880 purchasing managers in the food industry from around the country, and we're going to be talking everything agricultural in terms of how it affects food companies. So that's where I'm at today. I think you're generally right, Ben. I think it's weather that pretty much trumps everything here. I think as we go back, we can think a little bit about here these Chinese trade talks that are happening between the United States and China in London. They started this morning. They're expected to conclude late Wednesday. We think, of course, it's going to be really focused on rare earth metals in terms of getting them into the United States and China's demand then for high-end chips. And so I don't think there's going to be an agricultural bend here. And I think as you look forward, the question I have in my mind is, will these trade talks conclude by the middle of August? If they go longer than that, we are looking at some adversity in terms of U.S. soybean and corn sales into China in that time frame. So as you know, at Ag Resource, we're carrying two balance sheets, one with China, one without China. And if we don't get China as a key soybean buyer in the fall timeframe, it's a big deal because it's about 10.5 million metric tons of U.S. soybean demand that could be lost. So that would add 300 and some odd million bushels to your end stocks and change that balance sheet on soybeans from something like, 290 or 300 up to like upper fives or lower 600 million bushels, and the implications on prices like $1.50 a bushel. So be aware of that. It's very important going forward. But today we just don't have any visibility. We will get comments probably on the conclusion of the trade talks, just like we did in Geneva. I'm sure they will be positive, at least at this go around. It's all in the best interest of China to delay these talks, or let's say push them down the road as far as possible so that tariffs don't go up against them. So that's kind of how we think about the trade talks here at Ag Resource, at least looking forward. I would mention to everyone that the harvest, whether it be in Europe or the Black Sea or the United States, is going to be starting here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Probably next week, we'll start cutting into Kansas and we'll see what's there. In places like France, southern France or southern Europe, we'll probably start cutting by the end of June. You see this morning that this is a Paris weekly wheat chart. Notice how the market is really consolidating right against that trend line. So if we break that trend line as we go through harvest here, I would imagine we can fall downwards to 180 or 185 in terms of European wheat values. This would be, of course, euros per metric ton. So we'll see how this all goes forward, Ben. But, I think it's very important that we hold this support. Chicago wheat went right back to the May highs and fell off it quite aptly here this morning. I think harvest ahead is going to be a pressuring factor for the wheat market, at least as we head into July when seasonal lows are more likely. As we look at U.S. weather this morning, and that's probably the biggest factor for these markets in general, this is a 2-week anomaly chart showing you rainfall across the central U.S. And notice that there is some dryness coming for some areas that are very wet today in terms of Texas, western Oklahoma. But then as we go across let's say the northern plains stretching into the upper Midwest, this is a rather active weather pattern. No rain till Wednesday, and then we get rain almost on a daily basis heading into the 24th of June. So soil moisture is going to be replaced as you head into the end of June. I think it really is going to be an issue, not of soil moisture for the corn crop, but temperatures during pollination. So that's a much different barometer, if you will, in terms of corn yields looking forward. It's been a long time since we've had extreme heat really wreck the pollination time frame, but we'll see how that goes forward. And again, it's an outlier, a very modest outlier in terms of what can happen to the corn crop. So today we're looking for condition ratings on corn and soybeans and spring wheat to be up 1 to 2% in the good to excellent category. Also in the same vein, if we look at temperatures, no heat, no blocking ridge of high pressure. This is a progressive pattern. Maybe something happens as we get in beyond the 4th of July holiday. But as far as we can look forward at the moment, weather looks generally favorable for U.S. crops. Now, as you mentioned, Ben, this stretch of good weather stretches now into Canada. Canada's been dry. They're going to get some rain. As you said, the northern Chinese plains is going to get some rain. So as we look at the only remaining weather problem in the world, and it's not a problem today, but it could turn into a problem tomorrow, would maybe be the EU, where it's dry across portions of France, stretching into Ukraine. Maybe that area does not get much rain. This is a 2-week rainfall anomaly looking to June 24th. Notice again that not a lot of moisture. There will be some, but it's still digging into soil moisture reserves. And so with that in mind, this is the area that's remaining in the northern hemisphere that we have to pay close attention to. If you're a bull, that's what you're going to point your finger to. We'll see what happens. We did have South Korea buying some U.S. corn over the weekend. It's a little surprising that the Brazilians aren't more active in selling corn yet, Ben, but I think they're just waiting for the real to weaken a little further before they get on that. So I don't know if you got any final questions, but again, our research, we made some sales late last week. If you're a farmer, a trader, scan the QR code and take us for a month and see how we do specifically with our recommendations. Back to you, Ben.
Yeah, and we've got the June WASDE this week on Thursday, so you'll get the full analysis there. I think wheat will kind of be the focus as we start to fine-tune balance sheets, the U.S. and globally. But yeah, I don't think there's any point in overthinking this. You know, it's the long-range U.S. weather forecast. Even last week, we're kind of still unable to shake this potential heat and dryness, but it just doesn't show up in the 10-day forecast. So the reality of weather does look adequately wet, no heat, and we're kind of pushing any concern now into July and whether that does change. And that's, I think, still the debate. But again, we have found that if you get into the last part of June and it's raining regularly, that probably kind of foreshadows the rest of summer to some extent. So, it's kind of finding threats, trade deals, weather. Got some trade deal positivity this morning. We'll see how that evolves. But otherwise, the weather does look pretty good. And again, we know how the market reacts during the summer months if you don't have a threat. So it is kind of shedding premium. Funds are short corn. Funds are very short wheat. But what's left to spark any covering effort, I think, is what we'll kind of watch for in the background. So got a lot of good research coming out this week. Again, $1 gets you in for 30 days. And so, and again, nothing else. Wish you all the best in the markets today, and we will talk tomorrow.